Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us. My name is Hannah Laux. I work with Government Relations on the NSTA team. With us today is Daniel O'Donnell from Stand for Children. Daniel is the Director of Kind School Networks for Stand for Children. Daniel, we're so excited to have you. Thanks for taking time to talk to us about Stand for Children's Middle School Kindness Challenge. As many of you are probably aware, NSTA has recently partnered with Middle School Kindness to create school bus specific lesson plans. There'll be more on this later. For now, Daniel, do you mind if I ask you a few questions about yourself? Can you provide some insight into your background and how you came to be involved with Stand for Children?
Oh, yes, of course. So I am a Tennessee native, and most of my professional career has been in political campaigns and organizing. And I began working with Stand for Children about 6 years ago. Stand is a national education advocacy organization. And so they advocate for better public schools in a variety of ways. And so working here has been a great way for me to use skills I've picked up in political organizing and campaigns and apply them to, probably the most critical issue in a place like Nashville or in many places around the country, which is, our public schools and making sure that we have great public schools for everybody. So I've been with Stand for 6 years. I began working on the Middle School Kindness Challenge project about a year and a half ago, maybe now getting closer to 2 years ago. And so this is a new project of Stand's. It is frankly outside of our normal wheelhouse. Normally we work with parents to advocate for improvements to public schools. And this is new and this is different. And it is honestly a response to this moment that we are in, unfortunately, as a country where, in a lot of cases, it seems as though meanness and bullying and intolerance are on the rise. And so this project was developed in response to that trend, really as an effort to stem that tide, to give educators resources. We know that, these sorts of issues really wash up on school shores, in many cases more than any place else in society. And so educators are left to not just have to teach students math and science now, but to also deal with the raft of issues that they bring to the school. So this is our work to better support educators in that movement.
That's really interesting that you noted that school teachers are no longer needing to teach just your atypical math, science, English, that they're really acting as peers as well, right? And
Yeah.
I was wondering, you worked for President Obama. Did you become inspired while you were working in the administration to do something like this, or did this come down the line later?
I'll be honest, it did come down the line later. It feels like, and I know that, especially for some of your listeners who've been in education for decades, they will know that bullying is not new, that some of these issues are not new. But I really do think that in recent years, things have gotten worse and they've gotten more challenging. I mean, especially the most obvious example, I think, is with social media and with students' access to the internet. That is just not something, I'm not that old. I'm in my 30s, but that was just not something that, if you wanted to bully someone, you had to get in their face, right? And now, and when you left school, that was, that took away the bully's opportunity to bully you. Now, you can bully someone 24 hours a day on social media or, on the internet. And so that adds a whole new layer. And that's part of the reason why middle school, I think, is the critical years. That's often when students begin gaining access to the internet, social media. It's when they start having more opportunities like this to learn and exhibit bad behavior. And what we're trying to do with the Middle School Kindness Challenge is not just assume that students will will know what kind behavior looks like, and just hope that they just pick it up along the way. But we want to intentionally teach and foster those behaviors.
Yeah. So I meant to ask, why focus on middle school? Do you feel like that's just a fundamental period in a child's life when it's bullying is exacerbated? And like you said, social media, they're really just starting to get into social media at that point. So, is that why you
Yeah,
chose to focus on middle schoolers?
couple reasons. One, when we started surveying the landscape, I guess, of what is out there for educators who, if you wanted to make your school a kinder, more welcoming place, what is available to you. And what we saw was there were surprisingly a lot of resources for educators at the elementary school level and at the high school level, and not as much for students and teachers at the middle school level. And so one was just sort of trying to fill that gap in resources. But two is, like you said, the middle school years are, I think, as any educator will tell you, a critical time in a child's development. That's really where a lot of these behaviors, if they're going to take root, it's where they start to take root. It is also the age at which you can really start talking to students about heavier topics, about meatier issues, which, a lot of which are covered in the middle school kindness challenge. I think, elementary school for a lot of students is too early to be talking about certain issues. And then, by the time you're a junior or senior in high school, you would hope that you've already sort of, been taught and grappled with some of these issues. So for a lot of reasons, middle school seems like the right time. I will say, though, that at the same time, there is a need for kind schools at every grade level. And so we are looking at ways to expand resources to both the elementary and high school years. And so we're still a relatively new program. Middle school, I think, is the right place to start. And I think in the future we will try to find ways to also support educators, K-12.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've heard you focus on kindness and working to instill kindness. Why adopt a focus on kindness rather than an anti-bullying platform? And can you explain, your reasoning or?
Yeah. So it's sort of anti-bullying, but yeah, like you said, it's sort of coming at it from the opposite angle. It's less about focusing on the bully, and it's more about teaching practical life skills that every student needs in order to be a successful human being, let alone student. And so, I'm sure that there are other great ways to de-escalate a bullying situation. This is really just coming at it from a different approach, and it is bringing together heavily research-backed content from some of the leading national social emotional learning experts from around the country. So it's their content. Fortunately, we didn't create the content. We worked with the leading providers. They provided classroom content, which typically, if you want to engage with these organizations, it can be expensive, and a lot of educators don't have access. So we're taking some of the best content from people in this country and delivering it to schools for free. And yeah, really think that, in my mind, if you have visited a school that is in the midst of the kindness challenge or has just finished the kindness challenge, and you walk in their school building, you can sense a difference. You can tell that something is happening. And it sounds like a very simple thing, but it is incredibly powerful when you unleash the power of kindness throughout a school, especially at the middle school level. It just makes a huge difference, and it changes the atmosphere, it changes the environment. And it also, one thing that we talk about a lot is changing the incentive structure. So rather than focusing on the bully, there is a focus on kindness. And that's one thing that doesn't happen a lot in schools. Oftentimes, sadly, bullies bully because they're
Mhm.
incentivized to do so. It gets them attention. Um, in some ways it can elevate their status. What this does, schools that are participating in the kindness challenge, there's a focus on kindness, and so you sort of flip that script where all of a sudden it's cool to be kind. It is.
Yeah.
You are rewarded for being kind to others, not for being mean or for being hostile.
Mhm. Do you find that promoting kindness and asking students to hold each other accountable to be kind to each other, that's that's been so much more successful than just asking them to just do a nice thing, or if they kind of adopt that kindness, they see other people being kind, do you feel like they in turn hold each other accountable
Yes,
to be kind? Yeah.
it is sort of a contagious um, thing, and so yes, um, you see sort of learned behavior from peer to peer. We hear that a lot, that sort of catches fire. But yes, the main thing is that it's not, you sort of mentioned, like a random act of kindness. There are, random acts of kindness are great. I would just
Mhm.
emphasize that the backbone of this program is that teachers are intentionally teaching lessons related to kindness. And so it is, while it does happen that there's, it sort of spreads, there's
Mhm.
nothing random or accidental about it.
Yeah.
Teachers are, over the course of 30 days, intentionally teaching these lessons that
Mhm.
that basically cover, like I said, practical life skills that students need.
Yeah, and you mentioned a few moments ago that students that have kind of participated in the challenge, and you walk into those schools, you feel the atmosphere change. We often talk about over here at NSTA that school buses are an extension of the school day, and bullying is just as prevalent on the bus as it is in the classroom. So, what was it that prompted Middle School Kindness to seek out partnerships with National School Transportation Association?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I should first say that we're really proud and honored to be partnered with you all. It honestly came about somewhat randomly. I met part of the NSTA team at a conference last year. They were actually at the booth next to us, and so we sparked up a conversation. And just like you said, it quickly became apparent to both of us, the value that each of our organizations could offer to each other. I think what we were offering and what we're promoting, just as
Mhm.
you said, a lot of these problematic behaviors, I mean, you said at least as much, I would say in many cases more, they can happen on school buses.
Mhm.
Um, and, and so you've got to be able to, it would not be enough to just change the environment within the school building. You've really, I think, also got to do everything you can to change the environment as they're getting to and from school. I rode the bus. I went to public schools in Tennessee and rode the bus until I was able to drive. And I mean, from my own personal experience, I definitely recall that that's where a lot of problematic behavior takes root.
Yeah.
And so anything that we can do to make that bus ride go smoother, both
Mhm.
for the driver and for students on the bus, um, I think it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I do think that everyone has had those experiences in their lives where they rode the bus and they were bullied at one point on the bus. So I think it's great that we've been able to partner with you guys. We're really looking forward to it. And I just want to see if you could expand on how a contractor can and should partner with their school district to accept the challenge, and the challenge being the Middle School Kindness Challenge.
Sure, sure. So let me tell you just a little bit about. We haven't talked much about how you actually get into the challenge. Um, it is. We've tried to make this as simple as possible, and I have to. If I say it 3 times, I apologize, but I always have to emphasize there is no cost associated with any part of this. Um, we raised money to build this platform, and as I said, the leading social emotional learning expert, content providers in this country gave us the classroom resources. They are also just as eager as we are to stem this tide of bullying and meanness. So the content came free, and then we raised money to build a platform to deliver it. There's no cost associated with any part of it. And it's also just, it takes about a minute to register for anyone at their school to register. And after a minute, you have access to all of this content. So there's no trick to it. This is a powerful resource that, at least for the time being, we are able to offer completely free. And so anyone can go to kindnesschallenge.com. Just kindnesschallenge.com. There is a big blue button that says register for the challenge. Like I said, it takes about a minute. Anyone at any school with grades 4 to 8 can register. And then once that first person at school registers, that person is then given information and tools to get their entire school on board. And so I say that first to say that, there's not some hidden website or some special form that anyone needs to fill out. Anyone who's listening can just take the website, either to folks at the district office or, at a school site, and encourage them to register. So that's the first thing. At the school site, it's very simple. At the district level, if listeners have relationships at the district level, we have found that is a great way to get the word out about the challenge. And so, again, just encouraging. It's often someone in like the student support services. It has different names in different district offices, but whoever oversees counseling and student supports, that's often a great person to take this to, and have them simply, forward on the website or encouragement for schools to register. We're currently in the midst of, we call it a cycle. Basically, we keep the challenge open for a semester. And so schools are doing it at their own pace during the course of the semester. And then, that's one challenge. And then we open the challenge back up again in the fall. So we're currently in the midst of one cycle. Schools could register today. They can register all the way up until May 6th for this cycle.
Thank you for kind of walking through that. I know that that's helpful. And when you say it takes a minute to register, we all have a minute, right? And so, yeah. And contractors, I think, in moving it back into our membership, they are in contact with their districts all the time. And I know that several of our members, their school districts have already done this challenge and have enjoyed it and been successful in it and have seen the difference. Yeah. So I think that, in considering why you should do it, like you said, you walk in and you see an atmospheric change. It's just powerful. And I think that should be reason enough to want to go to your district and encourage them to try it. And like you said, it's free. There's no cost to it. And it only takes a minute to register, and you can go at your own pace. Right. There's no set schedule, like you said.
It does take 30 days. The challenge itself takes 30 days, but yes, it takes a minute to register. You can have as much time as you need to get your colleagues on board, and then completing the challenge takes 30 days. So even the program itself, most folks think of it as just, a 1 month, kind of like a booster shot for school climate. And, a lot of schools actually wait until later in the semester around testing time when stress is high, and when there are also gaps in the day that, that otherwise would go unfilled. This is a great way to fill out that calendar, and also, lower the stress in the building, and make it a more conducive environment for learning and for, we're getting into the stage of the year where it's conducive environment for testing.
Yeah. Can a school do the challenge more than once? And have you seen schools do it multiple times? Okay.
Oh, yeah. As a matter of fact, around 40% of our current registrants are folks who've done it in the past. So which is I think that's also encouraging. We see that yes, when schools do it once, they are very likely to come back and want to do it again.
Mhm.
I typically encourage schools to do it once a year. I think it's a good annual tradition.
Mhm.
But yeah, there are a whole lot of schools. This is now the fourth cycle that we've offered, and there are quite a few schools who have done it every single semester. So
Wow.
yes,
That's amazing. And there's different curriculums, is that correct? So you're never tied to
that's
one,
right.
yeah, one curriculum each time
That's
you do it. You offer a gamut of opportunities, right?
exactly. So, and that's why I think that's the major reason why it's repeatable is that there are 33 different classroom lessons to choose from.
Mhm.
And typically teachers who are participating over the course of the 30 days, they teach 4 of the activities.
Mhm.
So, so they can come back time after time, find 4 different activities to choose from. They are organized under 4 different themes. The themes are strengthening peer relationships, developing positive mindsets, fostering empathy, and
Mhm.
then the fourth is teaching cyber kindness. So that's just the dealing with the online behavior. So those themes give you a sense of what the content looks like. It's how to be kind to others, how to be kind to yourself,
Yeah.
how to interact with people who are different than you. That's the fostering empathy. And then how to be kind online. So 33 activities organized across those 4 themes, and yes, plenty of opportunity for teachers to come back and do it again and again. By the way, I should mention the activities themselves, the lessons take anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes up to an hour. So
Okay.
so schools can also decide which activities to teach based on how much time they have.
And you also offer resources for those in between cycles. If you've already done the cycle, but you want to extend, part of your challenge further, you guys do have a great website, and that does offer some great resources, and you can see what other schools are doing. Am I correct in that?
You are very correct. Yep, the website's a great place to go. It's pretty simply laid out, and yes, you can see some cool ideas that other schools from around the country challenge. Once you have a login, you can log in anytime during the school year and access these resources. So nothing preventing you from logging back in and yeah, and making best use of these resources.
Yeah, that's great. And it's always nice to see what other schools are doing and how they're taking this challenge one step further. And it's definitely inspiring to see what you can do in your own school, right?
Totally, totally.
Yeah. Yeah. So I know I mentioned previously that NSTA is working on taking some of the curriculums and activities and focusing on creating a school bus related scenario to go along with those. We mentioned that bullying it occurs on the bus, sometimes even more than in the classroom. So we have professionals here in the office that were former teachers that are reviewing all of the content and working to make those school bus specific scenarios. So we're also working to kind of look through the directory that you guys have in the districts you have participated in to see if our contractors are providing services to those districts and really link them up and get them more involved and get that school bus scenario also into their hands. So we're
Mhm.
really excited to unveil all of that. I think it'll be a great addition to what you guys have already put together. So
Yeah,
before we
look
sign
forward to
off,
that.
yeah, yeah. So I didn't know if there was anything else you wanted to add before we kind of wrap our conversation up here.
No, just thanks again for your partnership in this. This would not be possible if a whole range of organizations and associations hadn't linked arms
Yeah,
and developed this program and then promoted it. So really appreciate that. Like I said, the last day for this cycle to register is May 6th, and then we haven't set the date, but we're planning to to launch the next cycle. I'm sure it'll be sometime in August, early August. And the best place to go, to learn more or to register would be kindnesschallenge.com. And so would encourage everyone to go check it out, learn more. And encourage any school level folks that you can to participate.
Yeah, I've been on your website several times. It's a great website. It's really laid out well, and there's some great information on there as well as different resources. And I too encourage everyone to go take a look when you have a second. It's a great resource. But thank you so much, Daniel, for sharing your time with us today. I know we're just so excited to be partnered with you guys and to really share this concept of kindness and encourage each other to be kind rather than to bully. So, we look forward to, your continued involvement with us. We're just so excited. So, yeah.
Thanks very much, Hannah.
Of course.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. All right, everyone. Well, I hope you have a good afternoon, and thanks for tuning in.